Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this video we're going to review the new EX unit Luslec. I'm going to start with a general overview and then we're going to cover all the usual topics. I will say immediately that I think Luslec is the best unit in the entire game. He's extremely future-proof. I really don't see any scenario where if you have Luslec maxed out you won't use him. Even if his damage will get power crept in the future, maybe, his utility definitely will not. It will be extremely hard not to play Luslec if you have him. Really too much value in his kit. He has high single target max HP percent damage, which is annoying in some scenarios, but we're going to talk about those in the team building section. For now, I can say his damage is absolutely amazing, will work 95% of the times. He has a frequent energy decrease every time he uses a special move, and also at the very beginning of the battle, so really great value. You're going to prevent the Rainbow 5 effect on all enemies, which is massive. And he also has an HP recovery block. It's hidden behind Revolution 7. He has it in the base kit as well, but that requires for Luslec to die, so I'm not going to count that. And with Revolution 7, it's basically always up on all enemies. Again, insane value. His durability is not the best, like he cannot survive the whole fight on his own, but I mean, with everything he's providing, it's a fair trade, I would say. It's totally fair. And he already has a 5-second conceal on a 10-second interval, and an active skill that is going to give invincibility for 4 seconds in a small AoE. So he's mostly going to hit Luslec and maybe one ally that you placed next to him. So that's really decent, but again, won't be enough to keep him alive for the whole fight. You need additional supports for that, which is fair, again, totally acceptable. He also has a swiftness decrease that is single target, that is like 60 swiftness decrease, which is good, is decent. And he also has a defense decrease. That could be good if you want to add attack scaling sub DPS, or maybe in the very far future where we might have a main DPS that is attack scaling, and you're using Luslec as a sub DPS / debuffer. That could be a use case, but for the most part is not too relevant. Is okay, but not necessary. So yeah, that's it, I would say, for the general review. I just already talked about the kit a little bit, but yeah, if you keep him alive, it will clear most enemy teams, no problem, and it will always be good. For those reasons, I think is the best unit in the entire game at the moment. So let's have a look at the kit, Exotic Revolution, and then we're going to move on to the next points. For the base kit, I'm going to be quick because I already shared most of the important stuff. We have the passive that is going to allow him to use the special move at the very beginning, which is what is going to decrease the energy of the enemies. And then he's going to be concealed for 5 seconds, and every 10 seconds afterwards for 5 seconds. So as I mentioned, 5-second conceal on a 10-second interval is going to be concealed for 50% of the fight. Really good. The initial conceal also protects you against like assassinations or anything like that. So really good stuff. Luslec is always immune to status effects, not to debuffs, but the status effect immunity is already really good. His basic attacks are always going to attack the last attack enemy. It makes no sense, it's irrelevant, so we don't care about that. And the first time it takes fatal damage, because it's also the only time that it takes fatal damage, is going to enter Bright Charge. It's going to stay on the battlefield for 10 seconds and block all enemy HP recovery and energy recovery. This is what I mentioned before of him having an HP recovery block in his kit, but that only triggers when he dies. It's still insane, and in some scenarios, when your team are not like that strong, you might need to proc the passive, and you might also win because of it. So it's definitely a good passive to have. Then we have the first active skill, the Ghost Orchid, and this one is going to summon a creature that is going to stay until the end of the battle. It's unkillable, that's great. And it's going to always target the enemy with the highest attack, and it's going to deal 80% of their max HP. This is massive. It is every 10 seconds, but you are going to bloom basically all the time, which is going to decrease this time by 5 seconds, which means 80% max HP damage every 5 seconds. Really, really good. When you're going to use this skill again, you're obviously not summoning the Orchid, but you're going to proc the AoE invincibility for 4 seconds that I mentioned before. So quite good. Then we have the second active skill that is going to summon another creature or whatever plant that is going to focus again on the highest attack enemy, dealing attack percent damage, which is irrelevant. And when you reuse the skill, it's going to halve the interval. So from once per second, it's once every 0.5 seconds, which is great. And when you're blooming, which is after you use the special move, you're going to deal 10% of the enemy max HP. So by default, it's 10% max HP per second. When you use the active skill, it's going to be 10% every 0.5 seconds, which is really good. Then the special move is going to remove conceal from all enemies, and is going to deal attack percent damage, which we don't care, and decrease energy by 1000. So every time you use it, all enemies will have no energy. Really great. Then it's going to enter Dark Charge, which is going to increase his own attack, accuracy by 100% massive, and evasion by 100%. Also fairly good, you can leverage that. And that's going to last until the end of the battle, cannot be removed. Absolutely amazing. You're going to have this immediately because this guy starts with a special move. And when you use Dark Charge again while in Dark Charge, so starting from the first official special move, not the one that the passive procs, is going to teleport to his starting position and activate this effect again. Then he's going to allow all skills to bloom for 10 seconds, which is going to proc again the more frequent 80% max HP damage and the 10% max HP damage on the other active skill. Absolutely amazing base kit. Really, really good. Then we have the exclusive equipment. The crit rate increase is not too important, so we're going to ignore that. The level 1 is going to make it so the active skill that deals the damage per second is going to decrease the target's weakness by 30. There's going to be an additional one in Revolution, which is an additional 30, going to the 60%, to the 60s weakness decrease that I mentioned previously. Then we have the Ghost Orchid that is going to recover HP of allies nearby by 400% attack every second. Kind of irrelevant. I don't even consider that. So it's fine. Then we have Dark Charge. This is the special move. Is going to decrease the energy recovery of all enemies by 50%. Really good value as well. So you're going to decrease their energy, and they will have an harder time getting to the special move. Probably by the time they are about to use the special move, you will already cast their own and decrease their energy again. So they have no way of using special moves pretty much. Level 4 is going to increase the blooming time by 5 seconds. By default is 10. It's going to be 15 seconds every time you use the special move. Even with 10, it will be up most of the time, but still it's a nice addition. Then we have a revolution that on EX units are extremely important because we get 4 skill upgrades. We have the active skill, as I mentioned before, that was already decreasing swiftness by 30. Is going to decrease by an additional 30 and have the defense decrease by 80% on that target. So really good stuff again. The Revolution 5 is going to decrease the damage taken by allies that are nearby the Ghost Orchid. This is only 50% and it's only for units in the backline. It won't be too helpful. I would say it's mostly a PvP thing. In Adventure, it will be totally irrelevant from my point of view. Then we have Revolution 6 that is going to improve the passive and make it so when you are in Bright Charge, so after Luslec took fatal damage, you're going to have your skills that will always bloom. This should not be too necessary, but it could be helpful. So it's still really good because probably the skills were already blooming and probably would have bloomed for most of the time, but it's okay. It's a nice addition. Then we have Revolution 7, the most important one. So Dark Charge, other than decreasing the energy recovery and everything else, is going to also block HP recovery of all enemies. Period. Really, really good. This is insane quality of life. I really like this Revolution upgrade. It's massive. Revolution 8 we're not going to care, and that's more or less it for Revolution as well. Now we can quickly talk about Ignition Weapon. It didn't really change much from the initial impression because at the end of the day, all the other Ignition weapons are not really comparable to these 3. But these 3 you can kind of use however you want. You don't even need to upgrade them, so you could literally swap them as you like and see which one works best for you. But I would say Barry is overall the best one just because it protects initially one time from any random AoE one shots. That's really beneficial and it can help you get to some setups with your team. If you don't have any setup, like any special move you want to get to so that you can then protect Luslec, maybe you have a very basic frontline base team with an Albelda that is going to also protect Luslec. We're going to talk later again about the teams. But in that case, you might want to go with an option that is offering a bit less survivability, like maybe Upgrund, because you're already protected by Albelda and like Luslec own active skill. So Upgrund can work, but it's only a 3-hit barrier that needs to cover for the 5 second you're not concealed. Not the best. Again, only works if you already have another support like Albelda that can further improve your survivability. So that would be okay. And the energy you get out of Upgrund is pretty helpful. If enemies have a lot of ways to generate energy, you can, thanks to Upgrund, basically always keep them at zero, which is pretty cool. L is also a decent option. Will work worse than Barry if you are against enemies that have multi hits. But if you are against like single target hits every now and then, L could be a decent option to provide that good hit barrier. You won't have it up all the time because with some animations it might lose the stacks. It's not too quick at using basic attacks, but it is still a decent option. So why not? Definitely you can try all of them and see which one works best because as I said, you don't need to upgrade them. You can leave everything at +0 for the most part and it will be fine. I also mentioned one more set here that is Sela. I think Sela is great for two reasons. The first one, or well, for two use cases. The first one is if you are just starting a new account. So you don't have a lot of support options, you don't really have a lot of units that work well with Luslec and that can protect him. And if you are a new account, your deficit is likely lower than 250, let's say. So in that scenario, Sela full resistances is absolutely massive because Sela is going to give you 60% from the 4-piece effect, plus you go 40% to slot 4, 40% to slot 5. That's 100% in both resistances, and it's going to make him basically solo anything. You can just add Luslec and it will win below 250 deficit. The second use case, which is weird for some people maybe, but since the buff, Sela got an interesting effect. So after you kill an enemy, you gain for 5 seconds a 5% damage taken cap. So every hit you take cannot be higher than 5% of your total HP, which is pretty cool, I would say. And considering how frequently this guy is going to kill, thanks to his kit, we have, as we see, an 80% max HP damage every 5 seconds. So you can see again, 5-second duration on Sela, 5-second interval here. Pretty cool. And then you also have a 10% every half second damage as well. So chances are every 5 seconds, one enemy should be dying unless there are some barriers or other things, fine. But Sela could actually be good throughout the whole fight, even if you're not leveraging the resistance part, just the damage taken cap. So it could be worth evaluating. That's what I'm saying. I tried it a bit on the free-to-play account. It was working perfectly fine. I switched to Bar eventually, but I think Sela might deserve at least the alternative spot, even at a high deficit. Let me know in the comments if you tried that out and what you think about it, but it could be very, very interesting. Now let's move on to the next part, which is the investment guide. So for mandatory, we have 0 dupes, which is still fine. It doesn't have access to the HP recovery block from the Evolution 7, which is, again, a bit unfortunate. And all the HP percent damage is basically half of the initial value, which is, again, annoying. You don't have the 80% anymore, you have the 40, but you can still work with it. It's still fine. You will need to add an HP recovery block in the team and a lot more damage to support. So usable, but not quite top level. Just keep that in mind. In terms of investment, we don't really do anything, to be honest. plus 30 exotic equipment, no gear, no ignition weapon upgrade. We really don't care. He doesn't care about stats that much because you get a lot of accuracy, you get a lot of evasion anyway. Obviously, you could go evasion a bit more in the substats, that could be beneficial. You don't need affected because most of the stuff is always applied regardless. And like this could be a good upgrade maybe when it's zero dupes, but afterwards you just have access to it in the revolution subnodes, so it's not important. So yeah, the investment for mandatory is very minimal and it can work at a decent level. The recommended, on the other hand, would be Rainbow 5, obviously, so we get access to the Revolution 7. And at this point, you don't need any gear upgrade at all. For Ignition Weapon, I still left it at plus 0 because he really doesn't care enough about stats to, like, you can easily swap sets, leave them at plus 0, give him any stat you want, and it will do fine. In terms of Revolution subnodes, I would say accuracy and affected could be helpful. Max cooldown reduction is also okay, but too expensive. Effect resistance, okay, but also quite expensive because it's on the higher tier nodes. So I wouldn't bother with any of these, to be honest. Just leave everything at 0. Maybe accuracy if you need for some enemies. Affected, potentially, that's it. The rest you should really not worry about. For the nice to have, we have obviously plus 20 in every single piece of ignition weapon. Still no gear upgrade, we don't care too much about that. You can always go slot 1 and slot 3 if you want more accuracy and evasion. And the stats are also not that important. You can go affected slot 4 if you care about PvP. You can go effect resistance slot 4 if you want to protect from debuffs and stuff like that. Doesn't really matter. Slot 5, the only option is realistically Pierce. Everything else is garbage. So that's it. If you want to upgrade, do with this kind of setup. And then for the substats, again, look for some evasion if you want. And the rest is really irrelevant. Go effect resistance, whatever. Stats on Luslec are really not that important. It can work with everything. And what else? In terms of actual subnodes, I added evasion 2 because it's like 300 evasion, which is double thanks to his special move. So it's 600. That's quite a lot. So in some scenarios, it could actually help you out. For the very higher stages of hard mode, that won't help, but it's still okay. At least in PvP, it will be a bit better. And in normal adventure, it will be a bit better as well. So there is that to consider. So as I said, investment, pretty basic, nothing major to consider. Now let's go over the last point, which is the team building. We have the stuff that this guy provides. Already mentioned that, so we don't need to go over that again. The stuff that he needs from the team are mostly two, survivability and barrier break. Barriers could be a pain, and survivability, as I mentioned, is one of his weakest points. The enemies that you should avoid in normal adventure is basically no one, but I would say on the free-to-play, I'm struggling a bit against Mamanak because her survivability is a bit too annoying and it won't really focus Mamanak, so Mamanak will keep on protecting the linked ally. That was a bit annoying at times, but with a bit of RNG, he always won, so not a big of a deal. In hard mode, you will also struggle against units that can summon multiple times, like Data Gustang, because those summons somehow have higher attack than Data Gustang. And that's always a pain to deal with because it's going to attack the drones, it will take a bit to kill them, and by the time you kill like 2, then Gustang will have summoned 2 more, and you cannot really like go around it. You have ways, obviously, you can decrease his weakness in other ways, you can stun him a bit so that he doesn't use active skill, you can delay the active skill of that target. So you can build a team around that to counter those annoying enemies, but it's really not a major problem. Overall, already decreasing the energy of all enemies is a major help, and it's just a matter of, again, breaking barriers and potentially delaying the active skills and stuff like that. That's your main focus. The units that like the enemies that this unit is good against are basically all of them. Really, you don't have any strict requirements. The only exceptions are the one I mentioned for the most part. So units that can protect others, and Luslec is trying to kill that unit that is being protected. That's an annoying scenario, as I mentioned, with Mamanak. but it's not that big of a deal. You can work around everything. So we have some unit synergies as well. We have Albelda, that I think is one of the cheapest ways you can use a Luslec in a new account, because Albelda is in the nonstop and also in the guide pass pack if you want, and you can get her max fairly easily. And once she is really good with Luslec. Will decrease his cooldown so that he can use the invincibility from the Orchid a lot more, and also the hit barrier she provides, the extra initial energy is not important. The invincibility from her special move, she has a lot of stuff in his kit that will synergize well with Luslec. So great initial unit. I don't think Albelda is part of Luslec best teams, but definitely she's a very valuable addition. Then we have Sharon as a sort of support unit for survivability, and I really like her. I used like Sharon and Luslec, only those two, and they could also beat the annoying Data Gustang, a lot of annoying matchups in Adventure. They managed to clear them in hard mode, sorry. So even at 1000 deficit, just those two cleaned up most stuff. I really like the synergy because, again, she provides the two things I mentioned above, survivability, barrier break. Absolutely amazing. Then we have Reflejo, just to represent any single frontline unit that can buy enough time. Reflejo is a good example because he's an SSR unit. A lot of people will have him, and he's also purple. It works well with the other purple units, like Nana for the initial grouping. Then you have Reflejo keeping them there, and Luslec slowly killing them. That's also a normal team comp that you might do. But you can replace Reflejo with anybody like Evelyn, like Beta, Kun Mashini, whatever you have that can buy time, or you can add multiple, doesn't matter. The most important thing is that enemies do not attack Luslec. So you can use any means you have, any units you have to make that happen. For basic teams, I have two very cheap ones. I would say the monocolor team is not too cheap, but still it's acceptable. We have Anna Reflejo, I just mentioned. So we have initial grouping with Anna, Reflejo that will keep them there. We have Kun that is going to protect all allies, and Yura as well. And Luslec has the damage dealer with also the HP recovery block, so really good stuff. Yura here can beat 0 dupes. Kun needs Rainbow 5, otherwise it's kind of bad. But you can replace him with other units, like you're not forced to use him. You can use SSR Yura, it's going to be okay. You can use, I don't know, maybe Karaka if you want, even though he might die fairly quickly, but yeah, you can do those. So yeah, main focus again, keeping Luslec alive. For the multicolor team, this is the team I'm using on the free-to-play account. We have Luslec linked to Albelda, and then we have 3 frontline units. We have Beta that will do basically what Anna does, some initial grouping, and is also a stall tank. Then we have Reflejo, also staying alive thanks to his special move, and Kumashini as a stall tank as well. So 3 frontline units. So in case there is an enemy like Revolution Bomb that targets where most enemies are concentrated, it will only see like 3 frontline units for the most part, and it will always attack them. But yeah, in general, this team is fine for most matchups. And yeah, that's all, guys. There are better teams, I'm sure. This is just a cheap example that most people can replicate. And Beta and Kun, Mashini don't need to be like leveled up. They can just be 0 dupes. That's totally fine. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you want to recommend some other teams to people, feel free to do it. Really, he only needs to stay alive, guys. Focus on that, and you will have no problems. You can try a lot of different stuff. I tried multiple teams. They all work fine as long as it could protect Luslec long enough. So keep that in mind, and it will be fine, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.